Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another Art in Conversation with Farrin. As part of National Association of Women Artists series, and I should say Happy New Year because it's January and January 2025. I can't believe it. We have this conversation for more than 4 years since 2020. And our first artist for the year 2025 is Christine Palamidessi. I'm pretty sure I
Palamidessi.
mispronounced your last name.
Palamidessi, please. Palamidessi.
Yeah, Christine, welcome to our conversation
Oh,
and
thank you.
opening of 2025.
Thank you.
All right, so Christine is now was member, and as usual, we do. I appreciate if you introduce yourself, telling us a little bit about yourself, how you became artist, and what type of art you're doing.
Well, my name's Christine Palamidessi. When I call any Italian airlines, they have no trouble pronouncing my name. I know it is a very difficult name. When I was little, some people thought my first name was Paula. My last name was Medessi, but it's Palamidessi. So I know it's a big mouthful. So
Yeah.
I live in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I've been an artist my entire life.
Yeah.
I've dabbled in, well, I taught writing at Boston University for quite a while, fiction. And I also studied filmmaking. So I was involved in filmmaking when I lived in New York. But my early training was in the fine arts. And after teaching writing for 13 years, I said, I've had enough. And I went back to my fine art training. And so I guess that's how I became an artist. I've always been an artist. I'm sure many of the people you interview have the same answer.
Yeah.
I've always been an artist. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, art is in their blood since they're born
yeah,
somehow. And that's how you become artists. You're really 100% true because art has to be within you in
right.
order to match. So what type of art you known with?
Well, as I chose in this presentation was to talk about my paper and plaster art, which is sculpture. I also paint and do printmaking, but I didn't include any of that. So if you look at the slide, you'll see these are life-size sculptures. I build interior molds, and I work.
Good, I think this is bad, right?
I'm talking about the first slide because you
Okay,
can
so you want
see,
to have it first.
yeah, it's a particular kind of paper that comes from South Italy. It is a glueless paper, and so it accepts hardening agents. And this particular kind of paper has been used for centuries in South Italy to make arte sacra, with sacred art. So when you go to a church in South Italy, you may be looking at a statue, and it's made from paper that's been embedded with 8 layers of plaster and then to look like marble. I sometimes embed my work with plaster, and you will see some of that later. But this is the raw paper. I still consider it sacred art because I do figurative art, and we're all sacred beings. And if you look at this, you'll see that I've worked this particular series of sculpture, life-size sculpture, with wrappings. So I'm also looking at cultural wrappings such as Egyptian mummies or Hindu saris, Greek draping,
Yeah. I mean,
Harvey
the first thing came to my mind was mummification.
right, or Harvey
Yeah.
Leger bandage dresses. So it
Yes.
kind of this wrapping around the female form is very ancient. And
Mhm.
so I wrap around a form and then I have to cut the form. I don't know if you see any cuts in this, and pull out the form, which is sometimes like giving birth because it's not an easy tug. So,
Mm.
yeah,
I'm pretty sure this takes very long time because
it's a
it's
long time. Yes, it's a
yeah.
long process. Yes, it is.
So
And
it
many
just you have to
stages.
do one layer, let it dry, another
No,
layer to dry,
no,
or no, you do
no.
all.
That's the challenge. The challenge that I make a big sculpture, but when I wrap it with paper, it has to be 8 layers and all done in the same day because the enemy of this particular kind of work is air. You don't want an air bubble.
Oh,
So you have to work while it's wet and in a particular way to massage any air bubble that might happen out of it. So,
okay.
yeah.
Are you being trained for this or this
Yes,
came to
I
you?
did study with some cartapesta artisans in Italy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, because this is quite challenging. I mean, at least to me, that I have no knowledge. Listen, I am Egyptologist. I know about mummification, so that's why mummification came to my mind as I started. I mean, but mummification used to take 70 days. And I'm just
Yeah.
wondering, like,
And
just
now I don't think the people who do the sacra art, the typical artisan, doesn't make what I make, but I kind of riffed on what I learned
and you combine
to
it
do what
into
they
something,
do. Right.
yeah, something quite unique.
Right.
Right. I mean, is there something underneath that you make the
Yes.
mold? Okay, so there is a
I
mold.
have to make the interior, um, what would you call it? It's more than an armature. I make a sculpture and then I wrap the sculpture and then pull the sculpture out. Yeah.
All right, all right. Wow, wow. So this takes quite some time to do all this to
Right.
create.
I want the hollow vessel.
All right.
Because
How
to
how
me,
large are these?
they're life size.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you see me in the headstand in the next one, although I'm in front of them, but they are
Okay,
like not that one, the second one with the headstand. Oh yeah, there it is.
okay, yeah, this one.
Yeah, I'm in front of them, so they're as big as I am, almost as big as I am.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
and I want them to be hollow because, as you see, I'm also a yogini that I've been doing probably for 50 years doing yoga. And there's always this feeling in yoga of, the soul or spirit pushing against the inside layer of skin. So you can actually look inside the neck or of these and, see where the spirit might be pushing against the inside layer of skin. And
Wow.
then, of course, there's, the thing is like, we're just skin, like I think Rumi said this, we're just skin with stars inside. Are we a body holding a soul, or are we a soul that
All
is
right.
living in a body? So that question
Wow.
I'm
Very
working with in my work, all my work, really.
Yeah, very interesting concept. I saw a series in your website. Now you're talking about a skin, and the title of that series was Skin.
Oh,
And I,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
and if you don't mind, I just gonna go to that website very quickly to just show that series. It actually puzzled me. What do you mean by skin? And are you painting on something like a skin
Which,
or?
oh, no,
Oh,
that,
this
yeah.
series.
Oh, I love these. I didn't include them in my slideshow that I sent to you, but we'll see later where I take the paper sculpture and I flatten it under a printing press, and then I ink it,
Okay.
and then I make prints. So for me, they're skin. Their skin, and I have investigated skin, which we'll see when you show the yogi sculptures. But that's what this is. So this is skin. This is skin.
All right. So it's
And
yeah,
if you go a little lower, I
uh,
did a lot of I don't know if you can, if on the bottom of the, yes, where I did a whole book about skin prints, my own body that I inked, and I print like you can see my eye,
this one, the video.
eye,
The
sternum, knees. I did a video on that's the nose,
yeah. Wow, I mean, it was really puzzling, and my question,
lips.
whether
Yes,
they're on parchment or what you paint them. But now what you mentioned, it makes sense for the title, actually, how the title came from or where it came from.
that's my forehead. Yeah,
Oh,
sternum,
very interesting.
breasts. So I have a book. So I was using a book,
Yeah, I
navel.
notice also that you have some book in your website. Since I'm in here in your website, I just had, to um, ask my question that it came to my mind about the books that you have here. In particular, this series of book, this one. Are this also the paper you made the whole book? It
I
hand
make the whole
book?
book,
Oh,
right? And I did a whole series on Iana monotypes,
okay.
and each one of them was accompanied by a uh, lyrics from a male rock and roll singer on the bottom, so that he was singing to her and about love and about women and what they love about women. So I
Mhm.
think there's Eric Clapton, Bob Dylan, they all, there's some quotes. I don't have the quotes in my mind, but they're all rock and roll quotes under each print.
Yeah, very interesting website. I mean, it's full of mystery and question.
Oh,
At least for me, when I was a scan through it, I mean, to see this type of unique work that you do,
okay.
which is quite challenging, at least for somebody who doesn't have the skill, right? For me, but
So
it is,
oh, I'm sorry.
yeah. So, all right. So let's continue our journey through the slide and the artwork you selected actually for our.
Well, thank you for taking that little detour and looking at the skin. That was really wonderful, Farrin. So here on this slide, you see, I was thinking about how a practice, since I do have done yoga for 50 years, how that practice is interpreted physically.
Mhm.
Um, and I was thinking, oh, I would find all these large or, very broad upper lungs because,
Mhm.
in yoga practice, you learn to pillow your jaw with the upper lungs. And so I cast the torsos of about 108 yoga teachers, male and
Oh,
female. And I had a big exhibit of these torsos. And what I found was really surprising to me. Of course, I saw this expansion that I expected, but everybody has a torso print like a fingerprint. So
mhm.
I found that depending on the length of time, people who did yoga longer had this kind of fountain pattern from the navel up towards the heart and out. And some people had separate fountains, but there were these energetic patterns on the torso skin that
Yeah.
were totally fascinating. I didn't expect that. And so that fed into my wanting to make those skin prints.
Wow. So you kind of step into science here.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Wow. You
Exactly.
should have submitted to a science study, right? This is
Yeah.
not only art, but you open up a science window to your art in a sense. And how you
Yeah.
found all those hundred something
108 yoginis or
oh yeah.
yogis. I think I called the exhibit Yoga Stupa, which is a
Oh,
temple,
oh,
where
wow,
people
wow.
go to
And you had
pray.
to, wow, it's quite fascinating. I can't really believe it, how much time you spent to create this,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know, piece. It's not only art, in a sense, it's a science study.
Yeah,
And
it
mm,
is. And somebody, oh, could I have done like, I could probably go out and find 20 policemen,
yeah.
ask their chest. They would, the hair is an issue, but it would be interesting to see if there are different patterns in different professions or different
Yeah.
ways that you're constantly behaving, if that affects the patterns of skin
Yeah.
on your body. I mean,
You should definitely publish it in article or something. I mean, this is a fascinating study. It's not only art,
right.
and I think it's going to open up, different window for you and comparing,
Oh, I
different.
don't know if I really want to go cast,
Yeah.
you know, policeman or
But at
whatever.
least at least the one you did, it
Yeah.
could be something for other artists or scientists even, right?
Right. Right.
To
Thank you.
create something fascinating like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is this also part of the same series?
No, this is so when I did the 108 yoga teachers, of course, I had 108 imprints. And so I use those imprints.
All right.
Create more art. So here I create, I'm very much into how we're all connected by spirit and also by genomes. I mean, we carry strings from ancestors way back in the Stone Age. Now, the thing about the Stone Age is that's why I'm showing this first one that's stitched up. I mean, of course, we have stone that's the remnants of Stone Age, but we have no idea what fragile material they might have used on top of those stone statuettes, wax, feathers, strings, fabric, blood, unstable pigments, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this first one that I've stitched together is kind of my ode to I've done more in this artifact series to, the 30,000 BC, what they might have done. And we find pieces, I've sewn it back together and not used pigments or any fragile material really. But the one beside it, I've used materials with lace and beads and string. And it's flattened. It's a flattened sculpture. But
Okay, so
I've used
just show the original verse.
right.
Yeah.
Right. I've used fragile materials on something. So I mean, if 5,000 years from now, because it's paper, it's not going to exist. But if it was a stone tablet, all that fabric, beads, and lace would be gone, and it would just be a plaque of stone. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I like that kind of you recycle too, because what you use and what it the underneath layer become another set of artwork.
And so these are two more examples of the Vestals where when I do this, I'm thinking, well, I've done it to some male sculptures, but I'm more interested in the divine feminine, which males also possess. But so I'm chronicling a female through time. So if time, I press them through time. So when something travels through time, what happens to it? Flattens. Things, random things happen when an artifact passes through time. So I take this flattened sculpture that I've deliberately flattened and kind of left chance to make marks and folds and rips and wounds and all kinds of things to the female form. And then I embellish with gold or copper, silk threads, beads, sequins, strings.
To just show the passage of time.
To show the passage of time and also what remains and what is beautiful about the passage of time.
So in a sense, that essence stays, and that essence that, which is the originality stays, and that's the beauty of it, right? How it made and the passage of time.
And so here's a little bit about that process of making the flattened sculptures. So you see, starting, at space 1, yes, there is the paper sculpture that I've made. And then the second one, I run it through a printing press.
Okay.
And it flattens. And sometimes I step on it with a piece of plywood, or I run it multiple times through the printing press to make it really flat. And of course, I know absolutely nothing about it's the element of chance. What's going to happen? How's it going to fold? How is it going to rip? Will there be holes in it? Whatever. And then I paint it. You see the paint. I paint different colors. And then I'll make a sketch like you see in the lower corner there. And parts of the body, like courage resides in the liver. Heart is love. And where the folds have accented the power points of the body. That's the sketch from my sketchbook. And then I do the stitching. And then that's a bunch of them.
Wow, very interesting. So this also shows, how the time, the concept of this time and time, which is what happened through the different time period to this original.
Yeah, and also random choice, randomness that happens during time. Randomness. I mean, we can't predict what's going to happen. It's like putting a sculpture through a printing press. We don't know what will happen to it.
Wow. So most of your work, in a sense, are experiment, right? That means you experiment to see, okay, so what did come?
No, I wouldn't say most of my work. That particular series was,
Okay,
but not
that's
my
good.
work in
So,
general.
and you have the concept in your, you have the concept before you ran it through the machine, right? You, or for that particular series, what I mean. So you
Well, I
have
think
the idea.
no, I think that mostly I'm investigating spirit and time and connection through centuries and eons. Where does time begin? Where does art begin? And, I think I do this to heal, to celebrate all of us and make us more aware of the sizzle of the divine feminine as it moves through time, because the divine feminine, we all have it. But I mean, I think most people would agree that, it's gentleness, it's the connection to earth, it's fertility of the body, but fertility of agriculture and livestock and everything that, kind of gets it gets dismissed a lot. It gets, I mean, you think the divine feminine, like I do a lot of work with the Vestal Virgins, none of that is here. And I talk to people, very educated people, and they say, oh, they're prostitutes. Oh, they weren't, so the feminine often gets brushed aside to be somehow vulgar or lacking intelligence or not important. And I find my job as an artist is to keep pushing it forward.
Yeah, to make a statement
Right.
about how important it is.
So these, since you're an Egyptologist, these are the ushabti that are put into.
They have shapti or ushapti.
Right, that are put into funeral, the tombs with people to guide them. So I call them guardians. So I made I think 18 of these or 18 pairs of these for an exhibit. So they work in pairs. And this is using the same cartapesta technique. And I build interior, I think I built one or two interior sculptures that I build around. And then I made the 18 pairs. I had to pull them out, and the same as I did with the larger ones. And yeah, so they work as couples. And
why you made them in pair?
Because I was thinking about couples and coupling, which you'll see beside it is a sand cast. And I did sand casts to, how when you go and you look at Roman steels and Greek steels, and I think Egyptian, where they have the husband and wife together and often use.
Yeah, because the major concept in Asian art are about balance of nature, so balance of life. And so when you have a couple together, that means automatically you create this balance, male and female.
Male and female. So I wanted to do these series of couples. So that look both ancient and modern. So I did a series. I mean, in the series is a couple emptying the dishwasher, going shopping. This one in particular is a couple who's bringing home the bacon. They're going to work. There's a little piggy there. And so this is a couple bringing home the bacon. And it looks like it's made out of sand, but it's plaster and with a layer of sand that's congealed onto the surface. So it's a sand cast.
All right. Wow.
Which is very much like printing, because I do it backwards into a sand pit.
I understand. And yeah, I mean, it's the idea of bacon or pig here also
Right.
symbolize fertility, actually.
And
So,
also in ancient times, in the very ancient times, pigs were a symbol of fertility because they reproduce so
yeah.
easily. They were often pictured with females or females holding them because they were so fertile.
Yeah, so sometimes even they use it in a house, new wed people, like to bring them a fertile life and so on. So right there it has fascinating symbology. I mean, your work overall are about symbols and meaning.
Right.
So
Symbols.
it make,
And so that was kind of like the sands of time too, how couples are always couples and
yeah.
whatever. So these are little etudes. So they're about 12 to 18 inches tall. And after I did those large sculptures, and I thought, oh, I can paint them, but they take so much time to make. I didn't want to paint one and not like it. So I made a lot of small ones to see what they look like if I painted them. And of course, they became very popular and they're very lovely, but they're no bigger than 18 inches tall. So the black one, black and gold, is Don't Worry, Be Happy. Uh, and the one next to it is Isabella Stewart Gardner walking her pet leopard down Calm Ave.
Oh goodness.
And then I have a like a water goddess and a Minoan snake goddess. And so I have a whole bunch of these small ones that I do.
Yeah, very interesting. Why they are mostly headless?
Well, Rodin said the head is everywhere, and so does Iyengar,
All right. Yeah,
the
I love
yoga teacher. So a famous sculptor and the top-notch yoga teacher. The head is everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Makes
also, when you look at artifacts, they often lose their heads and arms.
yes, they do because they are more fragile compared
Right.
to the stuff
So
bedding.
maintaining my interest in time and passage of time and where does time begin and where does art begin, making things headless and without arms
Yeah,
seems to fit there for me.
yeah, it makes sense. 100% makes sense. I understand actually that concept. And see, now you have another series of only
This is
face.
another series made out of the same material, paper embedded with plaster. And during COVID, when everybody was wearing masks, I was making masks. So in this series, there's 33, and they chronicle the time of COVID. So the first one here is Wuhan, where
Uh-huh.
supposedly the whole
Things
pandemic
that started.
began, and she's eyes are downcast and her lips are sewn shut. So she's not going to talk about what she knows, but she's also very beautiful, like a jade Chinese icon. And so down the line, I investigated shedding, lockdown. Uh, Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, the Navajo Nation, the storm in Texas, replication, duplication, all kinds of things that happened during those 2 years of, I think I made 33 masks during COVID.
Yeah. Wow, wow.
So
Interesting. And each one has reference to different, part
phase
of
of
yeah.
COVID, yeah.
Words. And how you made them. Are them each is each one from particular model you use?
I have one right here.
Oh, let me see it actually. Let's just stop sharing and see.
So
Oh,
this is what it starts out, after well, if we look at the next one,
yeah, let
the
me just
next slide.
go back to share. And then, all right, so
Okay, so I'm also very, we are connected to our ancestors and way back to the Stone Age or Neanderthals and Homo sapiens, but I have a strong connection to my daughter, who is a collaborator. So that is my daughter, and I cast her face. Not all, and I have some like step grandchildren. They're not actually my grandchildren, and I have their faces. and my daughter's faces that I use to make these COVID masks, or they're not actually COVID masks, but I call them the future has an ancient face rather than COVID mask, because nobody talks about COVID anymore. You know?
Yeah. Because people want to forget it, it was a time frame which wasn't so really pleasant, but at the same time, it brought a lot of opportunity, a lot of free time, staying home.
Right. So my daughter was home with me, and I said, okay, you want to have some fun? So
this is it. So, and then you made something beautiful out of it.
Right. I really love that project. I mean, I have fun doing everything I make, but I really enjoyed that project, the mask.
Beautiful, very meaningful at the same time, right? And you use something fun during the lockdown.
Right. And so this is another intergenerational ancestral connection is I have public art in the Boston MBTA, the subway system. It's outside, where I wrote a story about my grandmothers, and it was engraved in granite and outside the Jackson Square subway stop in Boston.
Wow. So is this something you made the whole project yourself or been casted?
No, the Boston MBTA, they made that.
All right.
They selected my story.
Wow. Okay. So
I didn't make this sculpture. No, oh. I just wrote the story. They sculpted it and installed it. Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. Something to, stays there for generation, and you're
right. And it was kind of interesting when, I got the letter in the mail, but I don't know, I was traveling or on vacation. So I got home maybe 2 weeks after the letter arrived, and my only thing was, oh gosh, I wish I could have enjoyed it 2 weeks more if I were home, because it was kind of a big deal, If I had been home when this letter arrived, I could have appreciated this honor for 2 weeks longer. Yeah.
And now you appreciate it for forever.
In a way, it's like the 10 Commandments,
Exactly. I understand. Yeah. That's something gonna stay there, and you always honor it.
Yeah.
So why not? And so I see you have different books, which I saw them in your website too. Are these majority fiction stories?
Well, my book, let's see, The Ancestral Memory Bridge of Love. It took me 15 years to write. I completed it during COVID, and it was love letters written between 19 and 1920 between my grandparents. One emigrated, they were from Tuscany. One left, the grandfather left before my grandmother, and they corresponded. So it kind of chronicles not a very young love affair, but what went on in this small town and what the grandfather was doing in this country, and all the paperwork you needed to emigrate Italy, and what was required by the United States at that time. And the price of a ticket kind of quadrupled in 1 year, inflation. So I translated the letters from Italian to English. I did collage of, a lot of people look back at that time, when their grandparents, in that big immigration wave from Ireland, the Jewish migration, the Italian, and the Eastern European migration is sepia toned. But it was very exciting. There was Italian modernism, Modigliani, Morandi, so I used clips from old photos and combined collages with the art that was going on at that time.
So the cover page is your design too?
Cover page is my design. And the other books, The Virgin Nose is about Laszlo Toth hammering off the nose of the Pietà, and then what happened to the nose. Yeah. And, the fiddle cases, cross-country journey, So all of them are about art in one way or another, and about women as well.
Wow.
And these are kind of where I'm going now, I guess. I'm making goddesses, and also I'm making a few male sculptures. But the
Why
first
goddesses?
the first one is Juana Perilli, who is an Australian sun goddess. This is to show that you might find an artifact of one of these goddesses, but you wouldn't have any fragile material. So she has a treadmill on her head because she brings in the sun every day. And then the middle one is, oh, I forget how to say this, Baba Yuga or something. It's a Russian, Eastern European witch crone goddess.
Mm.
The blue one is a Greek goddess of memory. She has typewriter skeleton on her head. The gold one, who is holding a cell phone in her hand, I guess you can kind of see it, is Guan Yin. She's a Chinese bodhisattva, goddess of mercy. And the last one is Mat, Egyptian. You probably know Mat, the Egyptian justice, morality, and one other thing. So I'm taking what I'm conjuring up what might have been on a statuette or an artifact of these ancient goddesses if they were dug up now.
All right. Wow. And are they all related, these five goddesses, in a sense, in terms of the responsibility all these five had, or
No.
just you select them because of because of feminine aspect of them?
Well, these I've selected because of the feminine aspect, but they're not related by their duties. I guess they're related by their spiritual aspect in the culture which they lived in, and they were honored, prayed to, they were on altars, etc. But they don't have any overlapping duties that I'm aware of.
Yeah, just as a mother goddesses, which is all of them are. And
they're
that's
not modern, they're ancient.
no, mother goddesses,
Oh,
god.
mother, yes.
Yeah.
And I'm making some men now that are called wing bearers, wing like angel wings. And
Right.
then I'm relating them to like Lynn Swan and Tom Brady, people who men kind of who fly. So I'm having a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely fun, in particular when you put a cell phone in the hand of Asian goddesses.
Right.
I like this connection of like you make it contemporary and connect with Asian and see how this.
Yeah, well, if you want to talk to her now, I suppose you could try to use your cell phone and find
Yeah,
her.
exactly. You can connect. Anyway, the idea of Asian was like eternal, right? Eternity and immortality. So they are around us still, and their spirits all exist, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
So
that's what I feel. And why forget them,
yeah, exactly. There
We
are something
remember Jesus and Mohammed and, all these men. Buddha, why not remember some women?
some women goddesses, right? They all originated from this. All the modern religion came from Asian religions,
And
and
it's
so they
interesting.
are
It's
connected.
interesting. Yeah, when you think about religious rituals, all religious rituals have to do with creation and fertility.
Exactly.
You
Yeah,
know,
because that was the
but
center.
we don't say
Yeah,
that's feminine or
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, we don't
So
say,
it's time to move them
women is
forward.
the center of life. Women itself is a god because she can create.
Exactly. So when you do Egyptology, are you focused on women or men or just the whole thing?
Just the whole ancient Egypt. So that's one of my major field, and I
Ah,
master degree in Egyptology in a sense. So I'm just fascinated with Asian culture and religion and how everything connected. So
yeah.
yes. And symbols in particular, meaning, always seeking meaning and how everything being connected through meaning in different religion and culture.
So you've seen that big, I think it's in Turin. I saw it when it moved they took Turin or the big collection of Egyptology. I saw a big exhibit in Vicenza in 2022, but I think it all came from the Turin Museum collection, which is kind of amazing.
Yeah, I mean, right now in Egypt, they built the largest museum in the world. It just opened, actually,
Oh.
the Grand Museum of Egypt.
In
And
Cairo.
yeah, I'm traveling to Egypt every year and, just
Oh.
fascinated by those culture, but also overall Asian culture, which is like a big part of my education.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting. And your work in particular is very unique because you seek these symbols and you work with the symbols and meaning. And overall, the idea of ancestor and the spirits, which is connected us all together, right? Our ancestor.
You said that wonderfully. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually what I do, religions and Asian art and Asian culture. And I always try to teach my student how everything are connected, and we all are connected through that spirits.
Yes.
Right, Christine, I think we came to end of our conversation. Do you have any last message or advice for our fellow artists and fellow member?
Well, I just think it's important to appreciate the divine feminine because, we need more peace in the world, more stability, more love for nature and connection, and that we all have an important job, particularly women artists, to acknowledge all that.
Yeah, and support each other. And as you said, we are part of nature because we are
Mhm.
nature, right? We
And,
can.
Farron, I mean, have you been reading about now? They're saying all those cave paintings were done by women.
Yeah, I mean, they are, most of them, they are assumption actually that because women are kind of the guardian of, or the messenger in a sense, they believe. And so in order to send message and courage, they would paint those the message, or they would paint their courage. So it was part of the ritual because the ritual often done by women even in ancient time. And another thing
Yeah.
to actually finalize our conversation, one thing actually about witch and witchcraft, they always shows witch and witchcraft as a woman, right? Why? Because women do magic, right? The
Yes.
idea then women create another life within herself, it's magic.
Right.
So therefore, most of religious ritual was done by women because they had magic,
Right.
magical ability.
Right.
So that was the idea because we are all magician.
I
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, I like that. Let's stay with that. Thank you very much, Christine.
Okay, Farron,
I
thank you
really
so much.
appreciate for the magic you created.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.